Hi everyone, this is Yana and thank you for stopping by. Today I'd like to share my perfect card making formula. This is something I use whenever I have a hard time coming up with a good design, and this formula has never let me down. Maybe you will also find it useful, and feel free to share your perfect card making formula in the comments. So I'll talk about the formula I use to create clean and simple cards. I'll also share about ways you can replace one of the elements in that formula to use supplies you probably already own. So my perfect clean and simple card making formula is white card base, and lately I often like to use specialty card like wood grain textured cardstock or similar. Next is gold frame or gold die kit, which serves as a focal point on a card and sort of brings everything together. And for that, I love to use Alt News antique trims. I don't always go with gold, but this is my go-to choice. Next is a floral element, either one large stamped die cut flower or several smaller flowers and leaves, and of course a sentiment. Here I'm showing a couple of examples where I've used this formula over the past years to make cards. I mentioned I'll share a way to replace one of the elements in this formula, and the element I'm talking about is antique trims or the gold frames I have on my cards. I've actually had this idea for a couple of months now, and what pushed me to make this video is one of my followers on Instagram tagged me on a post where they share their struggle to come up with a substitute for these trims using dies and gold cardstock. And this is exactly what I was thinking. You can use your dies, frame dies or label dies, or even fancy shape dies, along with gold mirror cardstock, and create these frames yourself. So I grabbed my Spellbinders dies and I looked for a few combinations that I loved. I'll mention the names of the dies I used, and I'll also have them listed in the video description and over on my blog for your convenience. So first up I have Luscious Labels 1 combined with Labels 1, and all of these dies are from Spellbinders. By the way, you can create frames like these with other dies too. Just go through your stash and look for what you have. I'm pretty sure you can find some great options. So this particular die cut, or well, all of these die cuts, are gold on the front and white on the back. And this one is about 3 inches square, so a good size for an A2 card. For the next one, I used a single pierced delight die, and aside from cutting the design out, this particular die also adds a nice pierced detail to the die cuts. It makes it very elegant, plus the negative die cut pieces, there are some negative die cut hearts, can be used to further embellish your card. Next one is created using Majestic Circle, and it uses 2 dies from that set along with a simple circle die, and this creates a wider frame with pierced detail. I know it doesn't show very well on camera, but I hope you get the idea of how it looks. Next one, and this one is my favorite, uses a die from the triple tier set, makes up for a very elegant frame. I'll be using this one for my card today. Another one created using a single die set is this one using fancy framed tags 4. And here's another one that I really like. This one was die cut using Royal Circle and Gold Rounds 1 dies, along with a simple circle die. And if you want to look at these side by side, at all of these die cuts side by side, I have photos on my blog with all of these die cuts placed one next to each other. Another one I have here is also using Gold Rounds 1 plus simple circle dies. And all that Gold Rounds 1 die does is it adds embossed and debossed detail onto the die cut. It doesn't actually cut anything, so it's a good one to enhance your die cuts. Another option to use is to just go ahead with a fancy shape like this heart. And I used the Heart and Flutter set for this particular one. It's one of my favorite heart shaped die cuts. So I only made 8 examples to share here, but the number of options is really endless, especially if you have a lot of dies like this. I'm showing die cuts created using Spellbinders dies here because I happen to have a lot of dies from them, as I used to be on their design team. But you can by all means use dies from other manufacturers to create frames, and you can even mix and match dies from different manufacturers. As for the cardstock, I used gold mirror cardstock from Alt New. There is an identical one from a UK manufacturer called Dovecraft, and you'll only be able to find that particular cardstock in Europe. There's also cardstock like that from Do Crafts. It's also a UK manufacturer, but as far as I know, Simon Says Stamp has their cardstock. It's sold in gold and silver sets. And finally, you can find similar cardstock at Hobby Lobby. The one sold there is cheaper, but it doesn't look quite as nice. So I hope I was able to give you a few options as to how to make beautiful frames for your clean and simple cards. I feel this trick works well for mass production when you need to make a lot of cards of the same design, and that can justify buying a new die set versus buying one single frame or several frames. Now let's go ahead and create a card using this formula in one of the die kits. I'm going to first create a card base, and I'm using white wood grain cardstock. This one is from Simon's Stamp, and I'm creating an A2 top folding card. Altnew has an identical cardstock, and I also love to use Altnew's spicy yogurt cardstock for cards like these, but regular white card also works very nice. So I'm going to stamp several flowers for my project, and I'm going to use Altnew's Vintage Flowers stamps with matching dies, and I'm going with peach and yellow color combo. Here are the ink colors that I plan to use. I've actually never used this color combo before, and I'm excited to see how it's going to look in the end. So I have my mini Misty tool, and by the way, I'm giving one Misty away on my blog on May 24th, 2016. So head over there for your chance to win one as a part of the Misty Mania month from Misty. So I'm going to use my Misty to stamp the flowers and leaves. You can by all means use a clear block to do this, and I have been using clear block up until the moment I got the Misty, but using this stamping tool for color layering stamp sets makes it very easy to align everything and have better results. So if you have trouble aligning your color layering stamp sets, and color layering sets are those that have several layers to them, I would say try to use Misty and you'll have much better results. I didn't think I needed to use Misty until I got it, and I really think it's a great tool for stamping. Now, I don't use it all the time. It is often faster to just use a clear block for small images, but for things like this, or when stamping on watercolor paper, Misty is the way to go for me. So I'm going to stamp a large flower and several small flowers along with 2 leaf clusters. You can see I'm just rotating the paper in the Misty and stamping the same flower twice onto the same piece of paper to save time. I did ended up using just one flower, but I stamped both using slightly different colors of ink just so that I could choose the color that worked better for my card. I also stamped the leaves using yellows, and you can see how fast it really is to stamp all of these. I'm not spending too much time aligning the images, and the stamping process goes a lot faster. So after I had all of the images stamped, I used matching dies to cut these out in my die cutting machine, and my go-to die cutting machine at the moment is Artisan Explorer from Spellbinders. I have it sitting on my desk all the time. It's small enough so that it doesn't take too much space, yet it's large enough to cut A2 size. If I need to cut something bigger, I use my Platinum machine, which usually sits on the floor. So now that everything is die cut and stamped, let's go ahead and put the card together. I have my card base, and I'm going to add the die cut frame in the center, somewhat closer to the top of the card, and I'm using foam adhesive squares for this, as I feel it's important to add dimension to clean and simple cards to make them pop, and I've added quite a lot of foam adhesive there. Next, I'm going to arrange the flowers and leaves on top of the frame, and this usually doesn't take more than 2-3 minutes for me. You can see I first planned to have one large cluster at the bottom left corner, but as I started adhering the elements, I also added another smaller cluster in the top right corner, and you'll see it in a minute. So again, I'm using foam adhesive to adhere the large flower, and I'm adding adhesive directly onto the frame. And once the flower is in place, I'm going to also foam mount the leaves, and then use glue for the small flowers. I'm using multi-medium and matte finish from Ranger to adhere these. Now, I didn't adhere these the way I had planned at first, so I moved the die cuts around a little bit to have that perfect placement, adhered the small flowers with glue, and then added that second cluster at the top of the frame. At this point, our card is pretty much done. All you need to do is add a sentiment, and any general sentiment would work great for this. I decided to go with thank you, as I often give thank you cards to people I know, so I need a lot of these. To create the sentiment, I heat embossed thank you label in gold embossing powder onto white cardstock, cut it out with my scissors, and foam mounted it onto a card. I didn't show that part as it was pretty simple. Lastly, I added a few sequins in matching colors, and those are from Pretty Pink Posh, and that finished my clean and simple card using my perfect card making formula. Now, this formula works for me. I understand that it might not work for you, it might not work for everybody, but it works for me, so I wanted to share it. And I'm curious to know if you have any card making formulas of your own. I'm looking forward to your comments, and thank you so much for watching. I list all of the supplies I used in the video description. There's more information on my blog, so be sure to check it out as well. Thanks. I'll see you next time. Bye.